Okay, abuzua ba makwa ba sonko so edeba Ghana Politics Avenue so abuzua yembonra yensem yedikan aba be breaki ede amamo se ene President Mahama sworn in Paul BaffoeBonnie's as Chief Justice. Abusua na NPP minority no mamunim nyoma omudi kan ye no parliament ye ba be approve na abusua ene they are in tears say President Mahama ba be swear in Paul BaffoeBonnie as the new Chief Justice or more requested for a prima facie case set it up against Mami a friend Tukunu the removing or more say the removing or more say sa in your manner and seminar reports no reports no ember out into Addo and a President Mahama sworn in Paul BaffoeBonnie. Intino abusua they are in tears. Omunhu di omoye omunhu a adene so de bibia ededa na kwema enne enchibiano President Mahama ede bibia betutu na kwema mianko na yanko kwoti nsema ko so subscribe like na share ma afofron so ensa into me enkabi Ghana Politics Avenue so medamase.
Now, President John Dramani Mahama is set to swear in Justice Paul BaffoeBonnie as Chief Justice after Parliament gave him majority approval on Thursday. BaffoeBonnie became acting Chief Justice in April after the suspension of Justice Gertrude Tokonu, who is still litigating her removal as the head of the judiciary. An over 6-hour vetting at the Appointments Committee of Parliament gave BaffoeBonnie a 163 majority vote as against 69 from the minority NPP, who voted en bloc against the president's nominee. President Mahama will this afternoon swear him in as Ghana's new Chief Justice. Let's look ahead of that event. Komla Kluche is our Jubilee House correspondent. He's joined us for a bit more on the story. Komla, you talk to us. What will today look like? What are the expectations you're picking up from members of the judiciary?
Well, I mean, not much in terms of how swearing-ins have been done in the past. We know in just about some 3 or so weeks back, the president sworn in from appeal court or from judges who were the appeal court. The process will take virtually the same thing, but this time around, it's for the head of the judiciary, the Chief Justice, then who would be sworn in. He has actually sat by to look at various judges who were sworn in, from High Court judges through to Court of Appeal judges, and also some justices of the Supreme Court who were sworn in. The process will be virtually the same. But the main concern that has come from a lot of people, even especially the minority, has to do with the fact that the president has not released the prima facie case that the committee stood on to ask the Chief Justice or the ex-Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonu. Many believe that it's about time that the president releases the report. Bits and pieces have been thrown out there in the public space, but officially, government has not released that. The expectation from many is to the effect that the president may be releasing the report. Well, that may not be part of how the process will be today, but there's likelihood that the president may touch on bits and the pieces. We are not too sure, but it's quite likely that the president may be touching on it. Another thing also has to do with the fact that the president did talk about some reforms when he was campaigning. When he was sworn in, he equally spoke about reset and also reforming the judiciary. The Chief Justice, who is incoming, Paul BaffoeBonnie, agrees to a very large extent that reforms are needed. And so the expectation also is to the effect that those reforms will be re-echoed, but he must position himself in the best place to be able to carry out those reforms. Much of it may be a radical one, but as to how it will be playing, we can only watch and see.
I see. Komla, who are we expecting at the swearing-in today?
These swearing-ins are strictly by invitation. He himself with his spouse, and also his children, and justices of the Supreme Court mostly. They're very close friends and families or relatives of Paul BaffoeBonnie, JFC, are the ones who are mostly likely to be invited. Then senior government officials are mostly the ones who sit in to witness how the process will be. It's not anything probably so grandiose. There may be some surprises. We do not know who and who will make that list, but invitation to these things are very, very strict. And even the media or the presidential media team have been accordingly told that your identity cards will or must be displayed whilst entering into the banquet hall. And so it's not just anybody at all. Until you have an invitation and you are needed to play a particular role, you are not invited there to the swearing in. And so it will be just one of those same swearing in, but this time around, it is to the head of the judiciary, Justice Paul BaffoeBonnie, who likely will become the Chief Justice right after 3 p.m.
Indeed, Komla, and just before you go, you talked about the president's transformative agenda for the judiciary. The incoming Chief Justice himself also responded to questions around that during his vetting. How does his own vision for the judiciary align with that of the president?
Well, a host of them, to the extent that he speaks about the fact that, for instance, when it comes to the intake of lawyers or legal education, both him and the government are on the same stretch. And so to the extent that he tends to collaborate with the Minister for Justice and Attorney General, it likely means that they will be towing the same path. But, I mean, reforming the judiciary is a huge thing that has to be done. We can only wait, but much of it equally, it also depends on the budgetary allocations that will go through the judiciary. If he's able to get substantial amount of money that needs to be able to run the judiciary effectively, then those reforms will now come to play. If it doesn't, we can only see how he'll be able to make that into to effectively operate, because he has very limited time available to him since he will be retiring anytime soon as well from the judiciary.
Komla Kluche, Presidential Affairs Correspondent, thank you so much for talking to us. You're watching News Central. We'll take a very...
Now, over 1,500 visa applicants use fraudulent means to apply for visas to the UK in 2024. The numbers, according to the UK High Commissioner, reveals a growing threat requiring urgent fixing. The development has prompted the High Commissions of Australia, Canada, and the United Kingdom to embark on a week-long sensitization and education campaign to help tackle the challenge. The three commissions, in a joint statement, reiterated their commitment to protecting genuine applicants and ensuring that visa processes remain transparent. And let's try and walk you through exactly what is captured in that joint statement, most notably what the UK High Commissioner, Dr. Christian Rogue, had to say on this in relation to the numbers. And this is what he said, that in 2024, 1,632 applicants from Ghana used fraudulent means when applying for UK visas. While that represents only 4% of all Ghanaian applicants, it is so far too many people misled by agents into taking an action that resulted in a 10-year visa ban. Fraud is never worth the risk. Now, these are the numbers in relation to the UK alone. If you want to do an extrapolation, what will be the numbers when we consider the US, Australia, Canada, and other agencies or other countries where persons or Ghanaians are actively seeking visas for some stay? Let's speak to fraud and security consultant Richard Kumado. He's joining us via the phones this afternoon for a quick chat. Mr. Kumado, I appreciate you joining us. So to have the High Commissions come out to speak on these matters would suggest a problem on our hands. First, many will ask, how come this has not been flagged by any of our authorities, prompting investigations and attempts to deal with it head on?
Definitely, I have been part of some teams, or I know some agencies in town who does the background checks or investigations for some of the embassies in Ghana. And the numbers are going up. Some visa racketeering activities, and some agencies are duping a lot of people. Then they are also getting flags of some of the documents being submitted. I believe that is why they will want to educate the general public and create awareness, because sometimes lack of awareness may also lead to genuine people who want to apply the applications and the money that gets involved in terms of the visa application fees. So police is predominant, because when fraudulent documents are identified and they ban the applicants, these matters are reported to the Ghana police. And the Ghana police will want to investigate and get the perpetrators apprehended. I think that in terms of sanctioning and in terms of punitive action, if agents are identified, then they should be sanctioned as much as we want to sanction or ban the individual applicants for 5 years or 10 years. Because they are registered agents in Ghana who facilitate visa application processes for these individuals. And that is where the fraud is coming from predominantly.
And it's important you mention, or it's good that you mention these agents as well. What role are they supposed to be playing in all of this? Because they have the registered members, they are facilitating the travel and getting people's documents and the likes. If investigations, like you mentioned, the Ghana Police Service should kickstart, shouldn't we be zeroing in or narrowing on these agents?
Definitely yes, because people are afraid to apply for visa directly. They are either naive or they are uneducated in that regard. So you have agents who collect huge sums of money from them, and they put in the documents, and sometimes they don't even know the documents they are putting in. Then you also have a group of people who have deep connections within government, not NDC government or NPP government, but all our governments, and they travel with government agencies, and they change applications and change titles for certain people. And this informs the reason why in one of the travels abroad recently by the president, there was a directive from the presidency that there will be a limited number of people who will travel. And now we are going to have a World Cup next year. Strategically, these agencies or these embassies are raising the alarm now, and they are flashing out the red flag, and to set as a warning to people who will want to take advantage of next year's World Cup and dupe people or apply for wrong documentations, and they wouldn't get a visa. So it's good it's coming up early. We will all help in the education and the public awareness. But I think Ghana Police, the CID block, and the IGP and the Foreign Ministry must also issue some level of documents or some statements to that regard, because the ramifications are huge and people might not even be aware.
We've spoken about the high commissions. Which agency outside of perhaps these agents and travel groups should be leading the charge as well in the education that is required to ensure people do not fall to these fraudulent schemes?
The visa section. When you take the UK, for instance, they have people in UK who come to review the visa applications all over the world. And they look at the reasons given for refusing people. America does it as well. Some other agencies, embassies does it as well. So sometimes they also have a regime of accountability and responsibility that they will not just deny people visa, and you have the opportunity to reapply or appeal your refusal. But if it is determined that you use fraudulent documents, then that is huge. But I think the section within the embassies and the High Commission definitely is going to be the visa section, or they may outsource that responsibility to some other agency to do it for them. Above all, public education, awareness creation, prosecution of some of these agencies who dupe people and collect huge sums of them will be the way forward, and that is going to sanctify the system.
Right then, Mr. Kumado, we'll leave it here, but I appreciate you, as always, coming through for us this afternoon on the latest in relation to this particular subject matter. But that's Kemeni. She's going next because there's quite some development on the front of the armed forces recruitment.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's get on with that now. The Ghana Armed Forces says the suspended 2025-2026 recruitment exercise in the Greater Accra region will resume this Thursday, November 20th. The exercise was halted last week after a deadly stampede that claimed several lives. This time, the armed forces is rolling out new safety measures to prevent overcrowding. Screening will no longer be done at a single point. Instead, it has been expanded to 8 sub-centers across 5 military locations. These locations include 2 centers at the El Wak Stadium, 2 at the Nicholson Park in Bema Camp, the Air Force Base also in Bema Camp, and 2 more at Tradok in Teshi. And the Eastern Naval Command also in Tema. Qualified applicants will be processed in batches of 600. Each person will receive a text message with details of their reporting time and date, batch number, and designated center. The Armed Forces is encouraging applicants to also keep checking the recruitment portal for updates. Mutaru Mukhtar is a security analyst. We'll have a quick chat on the back of this. Mutaru, I appreciate your time this afternoon, but an inquiry now we know from that statement is underway. New modalities have also been put in place as far as the recruitment process is concerned. Does this satisfy you?
Well, I mean, it's welcoming that we are seeing the new measures put in place to not only address the potential challenge of having mass recruitment exercises at crowded locations that lead to potential situations like we've had last week. But of course, it acknowledges the reality of the fact that in this day and age, we need to be very deliberate about the use of technology and digital technology generally in addressing situations like this. This is something clearly we should have been doing from the beginning. In this day and age, it is, unfortunate that we bypass or put away important technological tools intended to address problems like this and go for, manual processes in dealing with recruitment. And so I think that this is welcoming. But we need to go beyond just that to look at the specific details relating to these new measures that are being put in place to address the challenge and the challenges relating to the recruitment. And I think that beyond, opening of new centers, we need to be very, very deliberate and specific about the numbers we're looking at each center. Very, very deliberate about specific numbers we're looking at the several days during which this recruitment will take place to ensure that we do not record any situation of accidents or discomfort relating to the recruitment exercise.
I see. And so today, as you know, we know now, we have a fair idea of how the recruitment process will resume at these 8 centers. What are your expectations as far as the orderliness of the process is concerned, not only for the armed forces, but also for the potential recruits as well?
Well, my expectation is that the potential recruits will turn up in their numbers in terms of the places where they've been allocated. My expectation is that people will generally comport themselves. Even with these new measures, we need to have enough cooperation from all actors involved, including the officials involved in the exercise, as well as the recruits that are put in place. I mean, that are looking to get recruited into the system. There are challenges often, associated with technology itself. So there's potential that some of these things, they could be breakdown in terms of technology functioning. All of those have to be taken into account in deploying these new measures that have been outlined in the Ghana Armed Forces statement. So I think that at the moment, we all have to support the measures that have been put in place, but also insist that they must be duly followed and ensure that they are robust enough to accommodate the recruitment exercises that are being outlined.
And finally, Mukhtar, let's talk about that Bureau of Inquiry investigations, right? The statement reiterates the efforts to probe how events unfolded on that fateful day. What are your expectations? What do you also think about the changes that have been made since the incident?
Sorry, I didn't get the question right. Did you mean the inquiry? I mean, relation to...
Yes. Mukhtar, I'm asking about the investigations, which the statement that was released today reiterates. What are your expectations of this inquiry?
Okay, Abusia, we need ensema ekoso ewo political highway so NPP minority na omodwene ensembia ekeka koso a omo enti aske. Abusia, we need ensema ekoso bada mase samoje pene kokoti sa ensemwe ede mai aha Ghana Politics Avenue so medamase.